Illawarra! And people don't believe in Wollongong, doubt us all year. You better start believing because we'll be back next year.
Ball driving. 7 seconds left. He pulls the trigger. Big shot taker. Big shot maker. Tyler Harvey enormous.
Yes! Welcome back to the Hawks Hangout, your one-stop shop for everything Illawarra Hawks related content, brought to you by the wonderful people over at Principal Brewing and the amazing people over at Enable U2. Season's coming up, Corey. We're feeling good. There's plenty to talk about. How have we been?
Great, mate. Just before I get into a bit of an outline of what we're going to be talking about today, big congratulations to one of our sponsors, Dave Mason, for the birth of his child, Josh Avery Mason. J-A-M, that's Jam. That is a very big basketball name. Congratulations, mate. Hopefully everything's going great for you. We've got another fan of the Hawks Hangout, I'm sure. So on today's episode, we are going to look at an NBL1 Season Wrap. We're also going to look at the Blitz and have a recap of that. We're going to do some of our early predictions for the top 6 for this upcoming season in the NBL. Some interesting predictions here. Also, some award predictions about the season coming up. And also, who we think is under the most pressure this upcoming season, both coach and team.
Mate, it's my absolute favourite time of the year. We're getting into crunch time. We've just seen a bit of the preseason. It's all starting to wrap and unfold. But first and foremost, NBL1 Season Recap. It's been the biggest talking point this season so far. The Beasts from the East, our Illawarra Hawks, finishing the top of the conference. There was a few teams that finished on the 15-5 record, but they ended up having the better for and against, and they finished on top. So we got, a few home games in the home finals and all the rest of it, and we absolutely dominated. And we ended up getting to the grand final against the Gunners, and we all went up to Penrith, packed the place out, and unfortunately we just couldn't get the job done. But then, out of nowhere, we get a sneaky little message going, oh, stay tuned, boys, stay tuned, that the Hawks then ended up having a wild card position for the national finals. Now, that was due to Knox Raiders not being able to field a team. That was due to having NBL talent, losing players, not being able to get a club to be able to come to Canberra. So for us, obviously being held in New South Wales, we were the top of the conference with everything. They gave us the wild card spot, which I thought was actually pretty decent.
Yeah.
So Corey and I, podcast duties, all the rest of it, and avid Hawks fans, as you all know, decided to head down there last weekend to go and support our boys, where both teams split their weekend, Corey. We did 1-1 for our NBL1 national finals and came 5th in the entirety of the country, which I think that's a huge achievement from coming last year. And then our NBL Blitz boys as well, they split, which we'll talk about in a second later. What did you think of our NBL1?
NBL1 season was great, actually. I thought it was a great vibe at the Snake Pit. Every home game was sensational. The Hawks only had that one loss throughout the whole season to the Sutherland Sharks. So their record was sensational. That was bringing people to the games. They played a great brand of basketball, high octane, high scoring. They did like to jack up a lot of threes. I remember one game they hit 26 threes from like 51 attempts. Incredible. You're not going to lose too many basketball games when you're doing that. But they did tend to live and die by the three. That was the makeup of their team. It was great to watch them play, and they were pretty unfortunate to lose that NBL1 East Grand Final. It was a great game, but Canberra were just too good in the last minute. They just come up with the big plays, and the Hawks probably come up with some pretty poor decision-making in that last minute, took some poor shots. And when you play a team like Canberra Gunners, who were coming off losing the grand final last year, they were pretty up for it. And they were just so determined. They come up with the big plays and deservedly won that game and went on to win the national championship. It was really good to see the Hawks in that national championship. Would have been nice. I'm a bit disappointed with the scheduling of it being at the same time as a Blitz.
Yeah.
Allowed not every team to have their best possible rosters, which led to like obviously some teams maybe not doing as best as they possibly could. So hopefully in the future they can look to schedule that a little bit better, so it's not at the same time and those NBL guys can still play with the NBL1 teams.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it was kind of one of those things where if they had done it before the Blitz, fantastic. We would have had, you know, people like Todd and Kobe not being able to relegate between NBL1 and NBL duties and all the rest of it. It was still fortunate enough that Kobe McDowell-White ended up suiting up and playing both games for our NBL1 team, and then went and played NBL as well. He didn't get a few minutes, but that was obviously due to having to play both teams and both games. But Todd was our massive big out. But it was a huge step up from everyone. It was an absolutely huge step up from everyone. We only just lost that first game within the same thing. It was the last few minutes of the game where we just gave it away, and the foul count as well. Like they shot 16 out of 25 free throws compared to our 6 from 8 or whatever it was from free throws.
Just seemed to be stuck on that 65 points for way too long, and then they got the lead out to 10, and we just couldn't get it back. Even though like we did give ourselves a chance right near the end. Matty Mims stepped back out after getting a rebound, hitting a 3. I think cut it to like 2 or 3, and we did have chances to like level it up, even though. But if we just didn't have that period of the game where it felt like 2, 3, 4 minutes where we just couldn't make a basket, it could have been a different story, because the next game they did really well with like less players really, and some of the youngsters, like I know Jada Flynn hit a couple of 3s, and it was good to see those young guys get out there and contribute on the national stage. So just looking forward though, like I think they've got to take advantage of how well this season has gone. The NBL1 team can't just be like, oh, we had a great season, and the people who put the team together, they can't just rest on it. They've got to really think now, say, well, look how good the Snake Pit was. It generated great interest, crowds. It had an awesome vibe. They've got to continue that. It's making basketball in the Illawarra grow, and I think they've got to keep doing that. So it's great that they've signed Toddy for the next 2 years. That's awesome. But if they really want to win and challenge, because the NBL1 East is like now the conference to be in. So a couple of years ago, it was probably the weakest one. Now it seems to be the strongest. We've got the national champions in there and some quality players throughout the whole conference, and you can't be left behind. So it's great having Toddy, but I think he's always going to make us competitive. But we need something a little bit more. So this year we struggled. We didn't have a real dominant big guy. Like CJ Marin was absolute quality, but he's 6'6", I believe, or 6'7", so an undersized big guy. And when he has to guard those really big, strong guys like Morrison in the final, it becomes really challenging. It's not necessarily his fault. It's a tough matchup for him. He's a tough matchup for other people too, because he's fast and athletic as well. But I think we just need some help in that 5 position. Like, I'm not too sure what's they're thinking, but in my head, like a Luca Yates, if he can come from the development of the NBL team, and I know he was in the New Zealand NBL, but if they want to really like challenge for a title, someone like him to come in and dominate in that 5 position, I think then like they're going to be very, very, very tough to beat.
Yeah, and it's also interesting to note as well, Corey, like most of that Canberra team don't have NBL contracts. So they went with a full squad.
Yeah.
Like those boys were out there to prove something. And not only because, A, they're from Canberra, the National Championships was down in Canberra, and then also the NBL Blitz was down in Canberra. But they're also the next team in line to get a team down there. Like all of these players are playing for something. They're playing to get a contract, to take that next step, to take that next level, and they absolutely killed it. So a massive shout out to them, especially Glenn Morrison, Will Mayfield. Like those boys have absolutely killed it all season long. They took us all the way to the brink in that finals game and every other game that we've played against them as well. But as you said, like we were just missing that extra bulk. And it's not because we didn't have the height or we didn't have the blocking advantage or the defense advantage, because Toby was great. That second game that Toby played on the weekends, he was absolutely fantastic. Dante Bruton coming off the bench was absolutely fantastic on defense with his tenacity. It's not like we didn't have the defense. We didn't have the bulk to match up down low when it became physical.
Yeah.
And that's where we suffered, but we also didn't suffer at the same time, because we took advantage of that throughout the season when we could spread the ball and we were shooting 3s like no tomorrow.
Yeah. But I think Canberra, like, really, they are ready to go for an NBL team. You could take 4 or 5 of the guys out of that Gunners team as your little local base, and then add 3 imports, and then try to pick up some people elsewhere. And I think they'd be quite competitive. Like, what strikes me the most about them is that they look physically ready. Like, they've got the bodies that are going to make them compete physically at the NBL level, and they're just. I think that if there's a team that's going to come in, I think it should be Canberra. I was like, I know some people have bagged the AIS stadium. I thought it was pretty decent, pretty decent stadium, and if they can make some smaller upgrades, it's only going to make it better. But I think they're like ready to go, and that they could come in the next couple of years. But let's move on and let's talk about the NBL, and let's talk about this blitz that occurred over the weekend. It was really cool to be there. Actually, it was a really good vibe. But it's interesting to see what teams do with this blitz. It was quite early in the season, still like obviously a month or so away before the actual season starts. And it seemed to be like some teams or most teams didn't take it overly too serious in regards to worrying about wins and losses. They just obviously wanted to try and get some like run under their legs and get out there as a team and see how they could go. There were some impressive teams, but a lot of the big names didn't play. Like, we didn't see Kendrick Davis, we didn't see Bryce Cotton, and there was a few others as well who we didn't actually see. So a lot of teams are probably putting those guys on ice a little bit, and it allows some other guys who might be in that sort of 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th position role to show what they can do. Someone in particular who I thought who probably have that sort of role, who I thought was really impressive, was an Isaac White, who was a former Hawk. Talk a little bit more about him later when we talk about potential award winners. He was super impressive, but it's going to be hard to see where his minutes are going to fit in. But I think he's going to force his way into some minutes there with the way that he played. But the Hawks, mate, what did you think about the Hawks 2 games? So the first one, what did you think?
The first one we lost to a B reserve grade Adelaide side, but also at the same time, like, we've spoken like plenty about it before filming this episode. They're a team again where they've got so much talent that almost all of them could be a starter on some team of some form. You've got Isaac White, you've got Montrezl Harrell, you've got Bryce Cotton, Isaac Humphries, Flynn Cameron, DJ Vasiljevic. They've got so many players that could just come in and come out of that team and rotate whenever is necessary. But for me, those people that stepped up and ended up beating the Hawks in that game are players that you're probably not going to more than likely see throughout the regular season. They might get 10, 15 minutes here and there. Someone like an Isaac White, if it was me, I'd actually be chucking him into the 6-man role or even into a starting role of some sorts and moving everyone around and shifting everyone around and trying to figure out something in there, because he really stood out for me. He's had quite a few up and down years, bouncing around from team to team, and he's finally found his place in Adelaide. And I think it's a perfect fit because he absolutely balled out and it absolutely showed. For me, the real worry in that was our rotations. And I know we had quite a few people out. We're still dealing with, well, is Jacory staying? Is he going? And there was obviously a whole massive thing in the media this week that he was going to Perth. We looked balanced, but we also didn't look balanced at the same time. We knew what we were doing. We knew what we were out there to do. But again, as we said before this, it was one of those things where we were taking it seriously, but we weren't at the same time. It was all just to get some feet and runs under our legs and everything as well. Our biggest disappointment though, Corey, and it's a reality shock, but Cairns. They were scrappy and they had a dogfight, but they were very thin. They're a very thin lineup. There's not much muscle. There's not much grunt or meat surrounding their team, and they probably go 6 or 7 deep. It's one of those same situations that Sydney are in, and it'll be really disappointing to see them not make it, which we'll talk about our predictions and who makes it later on as well. Yeah. But for me, they were a bit of a worry.
I think it's like, looking at the Blitz, it's always great to see basketball come back, but it's not the best way to judge, I think, how a team is going to go throughout the season. We know last year Brisbane were the NBL Blitz champions, and they didn't even make the top 6. So you can take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, I guess, because like I agree, like Cairns looked okay. They started their first game like quite poorly. They were down like 21-7 at quarter time, and then turned around, got that game to overtime. So they put on a show in the next 3 quarters, and one of their imports, Schofield, I think he had 17 in a quarter. So they've got the capabilities there, and they were without one of their imports, Haggins, I think it is, who is a point guard. He's got decent size. He's a phenomenal defender. I did a little bit of research on him from Kentucky, so they are a great powerhouse in college basketball. So he's got pretty good pedigree there, and he didn't even play. So it's really hard to make judgments on teams when players of that caliber didn't even play, and he's going to be their point guard. They were playing guys in that position who necessarily may not be that confident in holding the ball and controlling a team for long periods of time. So it's really hard. But looking at the Hawks, and let's look at the second game in particular that we were there for, that Perth game, we were struggling early, couldn't really seem to get it going. Perth seemed to be able to hit everything. Windler, is it Windler?
Dylan Windler,
Yeah, he had a great game. He was hitting threes left, right, and centre, but they had contributions from everywhere. They were up by about 14 or 16 one stage. Then I think Tyler got a bit of a knock, and then Hickey got a bit of a knock, and then we were like, oh, we're going to have to like just go with our second unit. And then they just caught fire. Like Mason Peatley, he's Himothy. Here's him. He hit like 4 threes.
Yeah.
Like if he can do that in the reg, that's a huge addition to our team. And then the J-Rock just come to life from nowhere after struggling in the first half and dominated. But again, it's hard to judge because like who's guarding him? Is he gonna like? It's hard to like make those judgments. I know people get excited about stats, but you would again take those stats with a grain of salt because players aren't playing against the opposition's best possible. Like they didn't have Doolittle, they didn't have JLA, who just quiet. I don't know if I told you about this, but JLA, I think we might be able to get under his skin pretty easily this year. He is one hell of a good player, but I saw at the Blitz a guy who was sitting courtside was giving him a bit of chirp. And most players, you should just walk away from that. Just walk away. There's no need to interact. But he kept looking back. He kept looking back. And then when he walked past him again, he actually went up into the stands and I had a chat to him, asked the problem. I just think you just need – there's no need to interact with the crowd at all, especially when you're a player of that caliber. Like, I'm not saying anyone should do it, but it's just, to me, it was crazy. And he is a sensational player, but they didn't have him, they didn't have Doolittle, and they still have another import to add. So, you know what I mean? It was great. I'm not going to lie. It's great to get a win over Perth. We've got a great record recently over Perth. I think we've only lost once to them over the last, like, two seasons. Yeah. So, like, it was good to keep that going. But, yeah. Yeah.
And it's one of those things where, people get caught up in it, but you've got to be able to back it up. And for him to not be able to be out there to back it up, it was kind of a bit disappointing because you want to play their best, but also at the same time, we didn't have any indication on what was going on with J-Rock, if he was the import, if he was staying or if he was going. We also had an extra local spot open as well. And then we also had no McGee as well. JaVale hadn't come to Australia yet, was dealing with his bout of pneumonia, which everyone's freaking out. Oh, he's not going to... He's fine. I know he's 37, but the dude can ball. We wouldn't have bothered finding him and going after him if he couldn't ball and if he wasn't fit and healthy. It's not how the Hawks roll. It's not what we're used to doing. Everything will be fine. Touching wood for next weekend in Singapore. But moving on, Corey.
Yes.
Our predictions for our top 6. And mind you, this is like way before the 6. And this is just going from what we saw at the Blitz. We went down there. We were lucky enough to catch the end of the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix game, and they were playing against New Zealand Breakers. New Zealand Breakers, they had a really, really, really good outing. And they were, again, Rob Baker II was overplaying with America recently for the American team in the FIBA qualifiers, wasn't here for the Blitz. So, again, they were without a point guard and a third import there, and they still managed to get a win away.
Yeah.
Southeast Melbourne took it all the way, took it down the line, and that was without Matt Hurt as well, who we thought was quite literally going to be their centerpiece moving forward before leaving. Top 6, Corey.
All right. So top 6, I've thought long and hard about this. I've done a fair bit of research because I want to take this pretty seriously. And and when you look at this, obviously it's hard not to look past talent. And I've sort of come up with a couple of different top 6s. One that's based on who I think's got the most talent. And then I'm going to one that takes coaching into consideration, because we saw last year that coaching was a key factor in the Hawks winning the championship. So I think it's a big thing. And then I'll come up with, based on who I've got in each, who I then think there's only 3 teams I've got in both of the lists in the top 6. Then I come up with who I think might be an early season prediction of the grand final.
Oh, no.
You might. So, again, I know this is a Hawks-based podcast, but I pride myself on making predictions that I think may come true. I hope the Hawks win it again and go back-to-back, but I'm making judgments based on what I think the rosters that have been developed and so forth. So my top 6 based on talent. And I'm going to give you a very, very brief for each little team's, something that I think that reason why they're there, or maybe something that might let them down a little bit. So I've got Adelaide. All right. I think they've got incredible depth. Obviously, getting all this talent to work together is going to be a problem, but based on talent alone, I think they've got the most talent. But I'm still concerned for them. Their number one concern, I feel like they don't really have a real genuine point guard. Their guards are scoring guards. Cotton can play the point, but he's mainly a scorer. I got Sydney, again, incredible depth. However, they're lots of egos. I feel like Gorge only likes to have a rotation of about 7. Someone's going to get minimal minutes. How they're going to handle that? Someone like a Quiet Noise, you're going to be able to handle reduced minutes if that's the case for him, because Galloway's coming through. Is he going to be able to handle that, being the 6th man of the year last year? I think that's going to be their issue, but they've got a lot of talent. Melbourne, back-to-back grand finalists. I really like their squad this year. Lots of talent there. I think they've got their imports right. They've got, I think, front court scoring could be a little bit of the issue. I like the import that they signed, Edwards, I think his name
Rob
is.
Edwards.
He was good, but seems potential limited a little bit in his scoring options. He's athletic, he'll get points around the rim and so forth. But I think they're going to be a very tough team to beat. Perth, I think they've got a quality front court. If they can add a decent import PG, they're going to be really tough. They've got nice Aussie backcourt players too, in Henschel and Pepper as well. Cairns. Now, I really like it. Everyone knows I'm a huge fan of Jack McVeigh. I think he best Aussie in the whole league, in my opinion. Their front court is nice. I think I'm not a huge Marcus Lee fan, but he is a good complementary player when you've got people around him who can score. So I think he's a nice addition to their team. Their imports are quality, and their coach is very good as well. And they're going to be super strong defensively. This Haggins guy is special defensively.
Oh, yeah.
Schofield's really special defensively. They've got some really, I think they're going to be tough. Marcus Lee, we know, protects the rim really well. So I think they're going to be strong defensively. I have Brisbane. I think they have arguably the best starting 5 in the NBL with Harrison, Freeman, Liberty. I'm really interested to see how Dukas goes coming back from the NBA, winning an NBA championship. He didn't play too much, but still being involved in that. Casey Prather and Jalen Adams. I think that's a really strong starting 5. But if they're going to have a big season, they're going to need some output from the bench. And I'm not too confident in their bench, but that starting 5 is pretty special. But guys like Norton, McDaniel, Terry Smith, Milner, those guys are going to have pretty good years. But I had that. That was my 6. So based on talent, Adelaide, Melbourne, Perth, Cairns, Brisbane. Is that right? Is that 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh no, is that right?
Perth.
Perth. So I've got Adelaide, Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, Cairns, Brisbane. That was my 6. All right. So you're probably going, what the hell? He's left the Hawks out. So I have the Hawks, yes, at this stage, just on the cusp. All right. I know the Hawks got great coaching, obviously confidence with that returning core, big X factor with McGee. Bolden is interesting, and he did surprise me at the Blitz. So he gave me a little bit of confidence. I like his ability to shoot the 3, defend it at an elite level. He rebounds at an elite level as well. If he can get 10 points a game for us, that will push us into the top 6. That's a big thing. And then also how Frolling's going to come back after his injury and how much impact he can have. I had Tassie just outside. I know Tassie are good too, and they're very good but I think Sean Mack going down is a huge out. And I did really like their import guard who they come in, Tiger Campbell. He was quality, great energy guy. At Southeast Melbourne missing out. They've lost a lot of scoring with Hurt. They've got gained defense with like John Brown, but I just feel like Hurt's a massive loss. New Zealand, I know they won the Blitz, but I don't know. I know this is going to happen every single time. I guarantee, one thing I will guarantee is one team I don't have in the top 6 will make the top 6. Yep. It happens every year. There's always a surprise. So New Zealand were awesome in the Blitz, but doesn't always mean anything. But I really think that PJC is going to have to take a big scoring load for that team. They've really looked to bring in, which I like it actually, a real New Zealand feel to their team. So they've got their imports. They only got one Australian in Bairstow. The rest of them are Kiwi guys. And I really like that. So they're going to really play for the country. So I think that's really like a great idea. But that's the talent one. Now I'll go quick because I know you need to talk a bit. All right. Coaching over talent, I think, is the key. But I think you sort of need a bit of a balance of both. Like a coach can't just work miracles with no talent. So based on coaching, I will say my top 6 would be Hawks, Cairns, Tassie, Southeast Melbourne, because I was a big fan. There's a bit of a correlation with what the Hawks did. He came in and end of last year and turned that team around, a bit like what Tatum did. And will he do the same sort of thing? But I respect what he did. Melbourne, because Vickerman is just always at a high level of coaching. And then I had Sydney. I know the GOAT, a lot of people think he's losing it a little bit, but I think, that would be my top 6 based on coaching. So then what that says is I've only got Sydney, Cairns, and Melbourne as the 3 who are in both the talent and in the coaching top 6 in both my lists. So I think Sydney have way too many egos, and Gorge only tends to play 7 or 8 in a rotation. So I think that might impact them. I've also heard, is there an injury to
Lepepe
for the season?
So they've got an import and a local spot still left, same as Perth.
So that's going to be interesting because that's a big loss to their front court. So basically on talent, coaching, team chemistry, lack of egos, I think the 2 teams I'm going for, I can see it being a Melbourne making it 3 grand finals in a row and another regional team making the grand final. So 3 years in a row, Melbourne are going to play a different
regional.
When I say regional, like lower like level team, like as when I'm talking about lower level, like smaller based clubs.
If you say Cairns in a second, I'm actually going to lose it.
It's Cairns. So McVeigh, it's a McVeigh factor, and I think that their imports are quality. I'm going for an early season Cairns, Melbourne, GF. I just think that could be the thing. But before I head it over to you, there's one really interesting fact I did in my little research. The top 6 has only been in the NBL for a couple of seasons now, 2 or 3 maybe. The only team who has not made the top 6 since they've had the top 6 installed?
Sydney Kings.
No, it's the Brisbane Bullets. Every other team has at least made the top 6, and it's only been for 2 or 3 seasons maximum. This might be the 3rd season maybe. So it hasn't been around for that long, and only one team has missed it, and that's Brisbane. So I'm going to think they're probably going to make it because it's just the natural flow of it, how it's worked. And I do think they have a great starting 5. So interesting fact there. I've talked a lot. Your turn, my brother.
I am the complete opposite. Mine is strict, simple, to the point. I've got the Hawks taking out the minor premiership again. I do not think you can underestimate us. You're having Davo coming off an absolute career year and a championship, plus a Boomers call-up, plus an NBA Summer League call-up as well. He's out for blood. He's out for vengeance. He's been elevated into that starting point guard spot with Ja'Cory McLaughlin taking on an Ian Clark type of role, which when we heard that, we were kind of like, are they alluding to Ian Clark coming in? Like, what's going on here? And then after seeing J-Rock playing those 2 games, especially the way that he stepped up, that's exactly what we're looking for in a team player and exactly why he's been brought in to the club. I know there's been a lot of slander and a lot of slack around him. I absolutely love him. I think he's a great energy, high-octane offense player that we need, that comes off the bench, fills that lead role that we kind of were missing, and just is going to absolutely kill it off the bench. If he's not averaging 10, 6, and 4 off the bench, then that's when we'll probably start to look at it. But I think that's something that he can easily do. So I've got us. Okay. Then in second place, and this is the big shock, but I've got Brisbane Bullets in second place.
Wow.
I think, as you said, the quality that they've got up there, and obviously it comes down to coaching. They've obviously had Schuler leave, and then they've got a new coach in there and all the rest of it. I really think that they've got the talent, the depth, and the drive to be able to make it and to be able to succeed. There is no way that you can put a team together like that with Jalen Adams, with Casey Prather, with Freeman Liberty, with Milner, with everyone that they've got in there and not be able to do something and make the top 4 at least. At bare minimum, they'll be a top 4 team, but for me, they're second.
Wow.
To round out my top 4, I've got Cairns Taipans, and then I've got my Perth Wildcats as well. So I feel like, again, they're too high.
You bagged like Cairns making the grand final. You got them third.
I've got them third, but I don't think that they can take it to the grand final, especially if they come up against a team like a Hawks, or if they come up against a team like a Brisbane Bullets in that first round, or whatever happens. I just cannot see them being able to take it that next step further and being able to push it.
They might struggle with a matchup in the bigs as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it comes down to, mine all comes down to a matchup game, which then takes me to my 4th, which is Perth. As we said before, I really think that our front court depth with Peatling, with Blanchfield, with Luca Yates coming off as a DP, we've got Harry Frawling in there, Sam Frawling whenever he comes back off his injury, we've got McGee, and we've got Bolden as well. That's some high quality forwards. Like, we have gone out, taken probably the best Aussie forwards, plus the most impressive import that.
A lot of variety in them as well. Like, you can throw lots of different things. They're not all the same style of players.
And different combos and different combinations, which is what we liked to do last year, and it's what really caught other teams out. And I really think that matchup against JLA and between McGee's just going to absolutely dominate. There's going to be nothing.
You're going to see that early in the season too.
I'm going to love it. My next one will be Melbourne United, and I hate to say it, but Melbourne United, I definitely can see coming into like the 5 spot, maybe the 6 spot, depending on what happens with for and against. I reckon it's really going to come down to a for and against. And then my 6th spot, it says something different on my run sheet, but after seeing them and seeing how they played and all the rest of it, I actually think New Zealand might sneak into the top 6 somehow, some way, and fight for that play-in spot. So I have gone
Adelaide and Sydney.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I have left out Adelaide purely for the fact that, yes, okay, they've got amazing talent across the board, but talent doesn't win championships. You've got 1 ball on the court and 8 people that fiend for the ball on any other team that they've been on. You've got Montrezl Harrell, who needs the ball in his hands 24/7. DJ, who likes it in his hands 24/7. Bryce Cotton, that needs it in his hands 24/7. It's why they just could not take it that next level last year when they had Kendrick Davis. Then speaking of Kendrick Davis, going on to Sydney Kings, I actually don't think that experiment's going to work whatsoever. With what they've got in there, it's going to be that same thing. They're going to have so much fractures in that team between Noi having to compete for a spot, Galloway potentially competing for a spot, and then going into a starting lineup, Bukwal then having to come out of the starting lineup, and then probably going into that 6-man role. You've got Tim Soers, you've got Della Vedova, you've got Xavier Cooks, you've got KD in there as well. Like, you've got a lot of talent, but again, there's only one ball and there's only so much ego basketball can do. As a coach and a player, that's something that I have seen, and I've seen it absolutely kill a team before. And it's something that can easily derail Sydney's entire season this year. And then obviously fringe teams. Yes, Tasmania. We love our boys down at the Tassie Takeover. Big shout out to them. They've been huge, helping us bring this podcast back to life and helping us with information and trying to get, inside goss on players and everything like that. But for me, I just feel like with Sean Mack being out, losing Clint Steindl to retirement, and then also losing Jack McVeigh as well, I just feel like they're one of those teams that are just not going to be able to get it done. They might be seventh, maybe seventh or sixth, and then they might just jump out of that top six with how the rosters go. And then I've also leaving Southeast Melbourne out. I think it's just it's a floater year for them. Losing Matt Hurt is absolutely huge. That's a massive out for them. And the imports that they've then replaced him with, I just don't think that they're going to get it done, unfortunately.
It's so hard, mate. We've just almost had a case for it. And when you say that, I know I had Tassie out too, but man, the imports are really strong.
Yeah.
And their starting five's decent when they rounded out with Magne and Bannon was pretty impressive at the Blitz. So it's like I said before, I guarantee you, one thing I will guarantee you is a team we've left out.
Oh yeah,
will make it. It's just the way it goes. And it's probably the closest set of talent we've had in the NBL ever. And another prediction I'm going to make is that each team plays 33 games this year. I know the Hawks won 20 games in a 29 games season last year. I will make a prediction. No one team will win 20 games this season. The best record will be 19-14. That's what I'm going to make. So I think there's going to be lots of teams who are going to get wins. I think the minimum amount of wins a team will probably get will probably be maybe 13 or 14.
Yeah.
So it's everyone's going to get their wins. There's no easy beats. You look last year, the Hawks had 20 wins, but we lost twice to Cairns, who finished last, and we lost 3 times to Adelaide, who only just scraped into the top 6 and had a less than 50-50 record. So there's no easy wins, and I think that's going to be even more indicative this season. So it's just going to come down to little things, injuries, confidence, who wins the close games. It's so exciting. But listening to your top 6 and who you left out, you can make a case for anyone. Everything you said, I probably agree with. But then there's and then you go, but I could make a case for this and that. It's just hard. This is just our opinions, and I'm sure, like I said, we're probably going to be wrong. But anything can happen in this season, and that's the beauty of it, and that's why it's super, super exciting. So let's move on from our top 6 predictions to now our award winners predictions. So early. So again, this is super, super early. This is based on very minimal information, just on seeing players a couple of times. And let's start with MVP. I'm going to give you a couple. I'm trying to mix it up. I'll go a local guy who could get it and an import. I love Jack McVeigh. I wish he was a Hawk. I was so excited and there was a chance that we could get him. I think that he's going to have a huge year. He's going to have free reign. He's brought some new offensive parts to his game, which are exciting. I think he's going to be really special. He's a great leader. I think he's going to lead that team really well. I think, and I predicted they'll have a big year. So if you have a big year and you're up in that top few teams, I think you're going to be in contention for an MVP. The import who I think could be special is Freeman Liberty for Brisbane. Super talented. He can do a lot. He can score like anything. So obviously if you're averaging 25 points or whatever, you're going to be in the mix for MVP. So they're my 2. Who have you got for MVP?
Yeah, MVP, it's one of those races. I think local guys, it'll come down to 1 or 2. It'll definitely come down to McVeigh. And then depending on what actually happens this season, there was a rumor that I saw last night that apparently Adelaide are vying for Bryce Cotton's citizenship to go through midway through this season, which then also means Tyler Harvey could then potentially get his citizenship as well. I know he's coming up on 5 years, and that will be him at his 5-year mark. Potentially we could see, an Aussie backcourt of Bryce Cotton and Tyler Harvey in the Boomers.
I think you can only have one naturalized player. So like they'd have to choose. So that's scary. So they'd have to make the choice. Because I remember when there was talk about Bryce playing for the Boomers when this was all first talked about, there was going to be they had to choose between him or Thibault. So you can only have one. You can't have multiple guys who are naturalized represent the country. You have to choose. So there'd only be one spot there.
Only one. Well, even still, like that battle between the two of them is going to be absolutely classic matchup this year as well. But then also someone that could slightly sneak in there as well. And I know I just wrote their team off, but don't be surprised if Dellavedova gets some nods. That dude was absolutely balling last season. And yes, okay, he won finals MVP. Should he have? Probably not. Should have gone to the winning team and it should have gone to Hickey because he was absolutely outstanding. But we've cleared the air. He's moved on to a new team, on to bigger and better things. And I can definitely see him at least averaging 7 or 8 assists a game, a few rebounds, and still at least 10 to 12 points like he was doing. He'll be an absolute double-double machine. And for me, they're the ones to be looking out for the Aussie players. And then imports, it can come down to absolutely anyone. It could be Tyler Harvey. It could be Bryce Cotton. It could be Kendrick Davis. It could be Freeman Liberty. It could be Tiger Campbell. It could be bloody JaVale McGee for all we know. It is one of those awards where it is so up in the air until like the final rounds.
You've named every player, so you're going to get it right.
I'll get it right. I'll just chuck a 10-leg multi for every single one of them on and hope for the best, honestly.
Certain. Yeah. But one thing I will say to you, like with the Delhi thing, is like I know we all both said that Sydney's tend to have a fair few egos there, but if someone could like bring those egos under wrap, it's probably Delhi is about the only one I could think of who could do it. Because he's just like the way he plays, he's so selfless. He puts team before himself all the time, and that sort of rubs off on everyone else. So he could have an impact on that in that way. And if he does, like he definitely would be in that MVP conversation because I think that's going to be the toughest thing for Sydney. Let's move on to defensive player of the year. Now, there are some beasts defensively. I would say the imports, there's John Brown is defensive menace, and so is Haggins, who's going to play for Cairns. Both great defensive. So they're the two imports guys I'm going to say. And the two Aussie-based guys, I'm going to say McDaniel for the Bullets. So he didn't play last year, so I think he's going to come in with a bit of a point to prove, and he is their defensive stopper. So he's going to be the guy they're going to put on the other team's best player. And you might see him, similar to what the Hawks do, like sneak into a starting lineup and then maybe one of their imports come off the bench as a spark offensively, like similar to what we do with Wani, get him in there. I think Sydney will do the same with Bull Quoll. Not necessarily the greatest offensively, but they're the guy who you want to start a game, put them on the other team's best player. It's usually the guard. It's a guards league. So usually the best defensive players in this league are the one who get defensive player of the year, the backcourt defenders, because they got to defend the best players. So I think him, and also obviously Hickey obviously been told that he's going to be the starting point guard and lead this team. He's going to have, again, the opportunity to also guard the other team's best player, and he's shown last year that he can do a really good job of that. So him and Wani together will be very, very strong defensively, you'd hope. But then obviously with teams having multiple good players, it's going to be like they're going to have to shut multiple good players down. So I think they're going to be in the mix. Who have you got for defensive?
Yeah, it could absolutely go to anyone, especially, again, with those Aussies in those import spots. McGee could easily average 2-3 blocks a game. Jonah Bolden down in the Blitz was at least averaging, again, 2 to 3 blocks per game and just swatting balls out of absolutely nowhere. JLA coming back into the league. The dude was grabbing balls midair when people were shooting because the length and the reach on him is absolutely insane. Again, could easily have blocks, steals, all the rest of it without being able to do that. And then you might have your smaller combo guards like your Davo Hickey, like your, what were you saying, McDaniel.
Yeah.
You've got all of these different little pieces that can come in and out of a lineup that could easily defend for a defensive player of the year position. And then it then folds on to what they do with lineups and everything like that as well. It is a guards league, so don't be surprised if you do see a guard take out the MVP. But then again, defensive player of the year, you look to your front court, so don't be surprised if it's a forward that ends up winning that award.
We haven't even mentioned Shea Ili. He was
defensive player last year.
I'm going to say about Shea Ili is that there are concerns. I did read an article about his multiple concussions. So I'm concerned if he's going to get through this season. It's a worry with obviously concussions being a huge thing across all sports now, that if he's having multiple concussions, it's just way too much of a risk. So if he gets another one, it could actually be, unfortunately,
I think that'll be
the end of his career. So not disrespecting him at all, but I'm just thinking that he may not potentially play a full season. I hope he does, because he's a great player. And I remember at that final series seeing his family turn up. They almost took up a whole section of the crowd. He had so many people there, and I just loved it. They all had Shea Ili T-shirts made up, and just, he's obviously a really good dude. So I hope he does. But let's move on to the next one. Most improved. Now, like obviously Hickey last
you could
year
have
was
him in there.
Outstanding. But I don't know how much is he going to be able to improve again on what he did. I'm going to go someone who I think could have a Davo Hickey-like level of improvement for the Hawks. And he's been missed through injury for a long time. I'm just hoping he can have a season without any injuries, because I think Gritter is a special talent, a very similar style player to Davo Hickey. Brings that energy, he brings the heart, and he just comes out in articles saying he just wants to bring it every single time he comes on the court. He just loves this area. He just wants to play for this area. He's great defensively. He can rebound. He can get to the bucket, finish. If he can just hit that three at a decent clip, I really think he's going to put himself in for most improved. And hopefully he can get around 15 to 18 minutes a game. And if he does that, I think he's going to be a big chance for most improved. And the obvious one is the one who just basically, the guy who exploded in the offseason, had a great NBL1 campaign, and then was a spectacular for the Boomers in their Asia Cup win. Galloway, but my only fear for him is he going to get the minutes that he deserves? I know he's put the pressure on, but then if he doesn't start the season as that well, they've got other guys like Noy and that who can play similar roles or slot in. And like I said, Gorge doesn't necessarily like to go too deep, and Bullquall and stuff, similar sort of guys. Like there's only so many minutes for everyone. So that's my only concern for him. Who have you got for most improved?
I'm absolutely the same with you on that one. I think Greeter's going to have an absolute blowout year like Hickey had last year. He's going to be potentially coming off the bench in a kind of six-man role, similar to what J-Rock potentially might be, but he might be the one that they chuck in there. But it's one of those fun things about the Hawks is that this season they're actually going about 10 deep. Last season we went about 8 or 9 deep, but I seriously think this year with everything that we've got, you take Mason Peatling out of the starting lineup and you bring him off the bench, that's an easy another 10, 12 points off the bench if he's hitting that three like he did last season in the Blitz.
I love Peatling in the starting lineup.
But then again, you go, okay, you've got Peatling in the starting lineup, but then Boulding comes off the bench. And he's absolutely huge. The defense and everything that you're going to get off him, it's going to be huge. But for me, I think our higher octane player who's going to absolutely kill it and is going to be in there for MIP is definitely going to be Greeter. But then again, the obvious one is Jalen Galloway. But then again, if he finds his way into a starting lineup, he may easily make a case for MVP. The way he was going, if they go, you know what, here's the keys, everyone else get the hell out of the way.
No, not with Kendrick Davis in that team. I can't see, I guess a similar call to like what a mate of mine called Hickey MVP, and I laughed at him. But you know what, he got Finals MVP, or should have got Finals MVP. Yeah. But that's a similar sort of thing. He's on that trajectory to go upwards. So,
absolutely.
It's going to be interesting. I really think Peatling should be our starter, because I do defensively with Bolden and McGee, two sort of rim protector guys. Is there like enough room there for two rim protectors? Like it could be Bolden coming in for McGee and so forth. Peatling was so good as a starter. I felt like that's where we got our production out of him. When he wasn't as strong. I felt like he likes that starting role. He comes on, he brings in intensity and purpose straight away. But he wasn't as confident coming off the bench and finishing games. But I think for me, he has to start. He's a great leader as well. So for me, it's Peatling starting. All right, sixth man. I've got one person only, and I spoke about him earlier. I think Isaac White is the NBL sixth man of the year. Again, Adelaide has plenty of talent, scary amount of talent, actually. It's going to be interesting to see how they just balance it out, especially if Cotton becomes a citizen and they can somehow get another import. That blows my mind. Isaac was excellent at the blitz. He just can shoot the hell out of the ball. He's crafty around the basket, improved defensively. I think he is a big chance for sixth man of the year. They're going to need a spark, and it might be a little bit controversial here, but I think he might take some of DJ Vasiljevic's minutes. I don't want to fat shame or anything, but I think DJ looks like he's carrying a little bit extra weight at the moment. Isaac is fit as hell, and he is ready to ball. I feel if DJ doesn't start the season overly well, they may look to start him or reduce his minutes, and Isaac is going to come in off that bench and take a lot of his minutes, and they might find them like almost sharing those minutes throughout the season. If that's the case, I think you're going to see more production out of Isaac. He's just like a live wire. That's my opinion. Who do you think? Sixth man.
He's going to be the absolute key to whether they make or break the six this season. I feel like last year they didn't have quite enough pieces when they were coming off. Their starters were almost playing a full game because they just did not trust their bench. And they went out, and that was the first team that made any real big signings because it was all just bang, 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 bang. Here you go. Here's all of our bench. We're bringing back all of our previous starters from last year. Montrez is coming back, and then arguably the biggest bloody signing that we've ever seen, and just announcing the bombshell of Bryce Cotton.
Well, it's going to be interesting because Isaac and Flynn Cameron both went to Adelaide quite early signings before they got all these big guns. They came to Adelaide for an opportunity. And then they made all these signings, and they've looked like they've maybe gone down in the pecking order a little bit. So they're going to have a point to prove. Like Flynn Cameron's another one who could be in that six man, but just how are they going to fit these guys in? And then they had these other guys who were at the Blitz who were playing, who did a great job as well. And I was like, wow, how are they going to get all these guys a chance to play? And sometimes if the players don't get a little bit disheartened because they're like, oh, this person's playing a little bit more than me, and I think I'm doing better than them and trying harder and putting more effort in training, it can be disheartening and it can bring team chemistry down. Adelaide had issues with that last year, and it could potentially happen again. But it's going to be very interesting. But I think they probably have the favourites to get the sixth man because they are going to need someone who can come in and give them a bit of a spark when the starters get tired or foul trouble or whatever, just to mix it up, because they're going to have lots of guys who want the ball in their hand. Like Isaac can play off the ball. Like I just think,
easily.
So,
and there's one person that we actually didn't mention in that list, and I know he is out, but it's our boy, Big Sammy Frawling. If they bring him back and he comes back that early January, mid-January spot, plays enough games to be eligible enough for that award, and they're bringing him off the bench, I really think that he could make a consideration for that role.
I just think he's not going to get to play enough games. I think it's late January they're talking, but good shout out because he's probably not going to come in and start, but I just don't think he's going to have a chance to play enough games. All right, now our last little thing before we wrap up today, we're going to talk about who we think is under the most pressure, coach-wise and also team-wise. So, firstly, team that you think is under the most pressure, Sammy?
There's two. There's actually multiple, but there's two because they've quite literally either got to make it or break it this season. They both exploded their rosters this season. They kept a core group of people, but then went out and made some huge big waves in the off season. And it's Sydney and Melbourne. I feel like they are the two teams that are under the absolute most pressure this season. Everyone would be like, oh, but Hawks.
Hawks under no pressure. We waited 24 seasons to win an NBL. So like most fans are going to be like, oh my God, this is like a free shot. Like I just want us to be competitive this year. And if we get anywhere near it, that's exciting. But like most fans are going to be like that. The Hawks, I feel, are under no pressure. Like obviously if we have a shocking season and we win like 3 games, they're going to be under pressure. But if competitive and in the mix and doing well. I don't think there's pressure. We just won a championship.
Yeah.
I think there's like a free shot for the Hawks here. I don't think there's pressure on them.
No, it's definitely not. But the two teams that have got the most to lose, and you could easily make a case for Melbourne and Brisbane and every other team that is in the league. Any team could have a case for this. But they're two teams that, for me, they've either got to make it work somehow with the names that they've got, or it's not going to work whatsoever. Corey?
I think the team, like it's the teams who have put like big squads together again and a big franchise, I think they're the ones who are going to be under pressure. Like I've got a few here, like obviously Sydney, after winning back-to-back championships, have been a little bit disappointing the last couple of seasons. They brought in Gorgian to be the guy to get him back into that dynasty. Nope. Again, hasn't really worked. Again, they've got a big jam-packed team this year. Obviously, bringing in Delhi was key. Gorge said he wanted like a leader, someone who can obviously they struggled with that last year. So I think they're under a fair bit of pressure because they do have a very strong lineup. And also, can they learn from their mistakes from last year when Rucker said if they don't make or win the championship, he's going to be walking from wherever to wherever. So he was like certain that, and you could argue that their lineup's better on paper this year than it was last year. So pressure on them. I would say Melbourne losing 2 grand finals in a row. Like if that was anyone else, like I feel like if they get there again, they're going to feel some pressure, especially if they play another smaller franchise. They lost to Tassie. They lost to the Hawks. Say they lose like on the Cairns.
Wouldn't it be absolutely like cinema if it was Hawks in Melbourne again? Like we take it again.
But if they're going to feel the pressure if that happens again.
Yeah.
And then Adelaide, obviously, like Adelaide have the most incredible lineup. There's going to be pressure there for me. I think that their players have to deliver. But if we're talking about coaching, I think the coach who's under the most pressure is probably Ford. Now, the reason why I'm going to say this is because he wasn't the Cairns coach for a bit there. So I'm going to make some inferences here and I'm going to make some assumptions, which you can't always make assumptions, but we're on a podcast, we can. So there must have been a reason why he left. And I'm going to assume the reason he left is that he felt like he wasn't going to get an opportunity to get the players in that he wanted.
Yeah.
They weren't going to spend the money. He's like, well, it's not going to be for me. Then all of a sudden, he's back. And then all of a sudden, they didn't have many players. Then all of a sudden, they've signed the biggest Australian in the competition. They've signed 2 incredible imports and then complemented them with a Marcus Lee who's shown that he can take teams to grand finals. I know he's not a huge, going to carry himself, but it's no coincidence that he was at Tassie and Melbourne. Like when he's played, his teams have done well. So, and he's just a nice little complementary import when you've got some really strong imports and some great Aussie talent.
Yeah.
So, but coming out, not being the coach, and then now getting what you want, you got to deliver. And I think he can. I really think he's a good coach. The players seem to play for him. He's defensive minded. He's got some players. He seems like he's got the guys that he wants. So I think when you've got what you want, you've got to deliver. So I think he's got the most pressure.
Yeah, I'm going to go completely opposite. I think his job is safe. I think the person whose job is not safe and probably won't be safe, it'll be very much a situation where we were used to seeing down here where Jacob Jackomas ended up being pushed out of the club after starting the season horribly. I feel like if Gorgian cannot get that team under control, Andrew Bogut owns stakes in the Sydney Kings and then has now inserted himself into an assistant coaching role. Whether or not he'll take over as head coach, I'm not too sure, but Gorgian couldn't get it done with the Hawks, left, went to China, couldn't get anything done over in China, has come back over here, but the style of basketball that he plays is an old style of basketball. It didn't work for the Hawks. It certainly hasn't been working for Sydney at the moment, and he has not been able to adapt his game and up and elevate his game so far to the current NBL standards. And for me, I really feel like if Sydney does not start the season as strong as they would like it to, with the names and the talent that they have on that roster, there will be calls for his head and he will be out of here like no tomorrow.
Wow. Huge.
Hey,
Huge.
and look, and I'm saying it now, if he is not fired this season and for whatever reason he does not lose his job, Derek, I will join you in your walk from Sydney to Perth.
Wow.
I will join you. If he does not get
Well,
fired.
I will say that he's if they don't make a grand final at least, he's going to be on the chopping block.
Oh, absolutely.
So that is, I agree. There's a fair bit of pressure there. But I just went a different way with Ford getting like that. He wasn't the coach, and now he is got what he wants. So he's got that pressure to deliver. And people are going to be talking about Cairns. Cairns are always like the team that like any game Cairns wins, like wow, like well done Cairns. But now there's expectations there. So with expectations comes a bit of pressure. Hawks had a bit of pressure last year because there was expectations when Tatum came in, turn them around that the next season, or can we go the next step? Like, let's do it. And they did. So less pressure on them this year, but let's look forward to this season, mate. I can't wait for it to get started. We've got that first home game for the Hawks on the 27th of September where the banner will be lifted. Get the second one up there. They've got the big Intercontinental Cup in Singapore coming up as well. We'll be watching that. But look forward to seeing you guys more at the games. And fly you Hawks. Fly.
Too good. NBL1 wrapped. Blitz is done. Now the real stuff begins. Drop your sticks, drop your early award tips in the comments below. Make sure you follow us at the Hawks Hangout, your one-stop shop for everything Hawks content. We're not going to keep this rolling on any longer. Fly you Hawks, fly high.